Hey y'all, and welcome to Brawl. My name is Brian, and Rep. Timmons just brings the hammer down, reminding and chastising all Democrats for just being asleep at the wheel as our nation's great cities continue to decay. Let's dive in.
America's homeless population doesn't just include veterans, of course, but also families with children and women who are fleeing domestic violence. But it appears that Donald Trump and the majority don't care. Now, President Trump shut down the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, which sought to explore and address the root causes of homelessness. And my Republican colleagues voted to block D.C. from spending $1 billion of its own tax revenues, money that can be used for real solutions to homelessness, including more affordable housing and wraparound services. We should look at ways to address the affordable housing crisis. This bill does nothing to provide more housing, nothing to provide more support, yet it's once again criminalizing people that need our support on the streets of D.C. I urge my colleagues to vote no on this backward legislation, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill, Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with my prepared remarks, and then I'm going to address the ridiculous things that were just said by the ranking member. So first, the District of Columbia is more than just a city. It's the front porch of our nation. Millions of visitors from across the country and around the world come here every year to see their government, their monuments, and their history. They expect and they deserve to see a capital city that is clean, safe, and welcoming. When our public spaces are overtaken by encampments, that sense of order and pride is lost, not just for visitors, but for the residents of the district who use these streets every single day. My bill, the Clean and Managed Public Spaces Act, or the CAMPS Act, bans camping on public property in D.C., ensuring that the capital of the greatest country in the world reflects the dignity, safety, and pride of its people. And when you get down to it, that is what this bill is about, people. Allowing individuals to sleep in tents on the streets is not compassion. It is neglect. A tent is not housing. A sidewalk is not a home. And leaving men, women, and families exposed to the elements, to crime, to addiction, and to despair is the opposite of what a caring society should do. Now to address the comments from the ranking member. All that this does is give law enforcement the ability to get these people off the streets and get them help. Functionally, a conditional discharge would be given. They would be sent somewhere to get the mental health counseling, the drug addiction counseling, whatever they need to get back on their feet. This is not going to result in criminal penalties. This is going to give law enforcement the tool to get these people the help that they need. By the way, file an amendment if you have a better idea. But I'm not going to have people come here and tell them that they can't walk to dinner. They can't walk around the mall. That's just completely unacceptable. For the last 6.5 years, I've been doing that. I told my commanding officer that he had to walk. He could not walk from his hotel to his restaurant. You know what happened? He did. There was an active shooter. There was an active shooter right there. And he called me. He said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have walked outside. Had another military colleague come. He had to run away from a homeless person that had a knife. I had my chief of staff had to move because somebody kept defecating on his damn front lawn. This is not how this world is going to be in Washington, D.C. A nation's capital in decline is a nation in decline. If you want to say, let's provide additional services to allow these people to get back on their feet, I'm all in. But what this does is it takes them off the street and it gives the city of D.C. the ability to force them into safe conditions where they can shower, where they can have a toilet, where they can get food and clothes and mental health counseling and drug addiction counseling. That is what we need to do. That is the humane thing to do. And it is immoral. It is immoral to allow these people to live under bridges, cold, hot, rain, whatever it is. It is immoral to allow them to defecate in the streets. It is immoral to allow them to harass our visitors. And we're not going to stand for it. President Trump has put an end to it. He signed an executive order bringing in the National Guard. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter who they voted for. The district's residents are happy. They are, it is palpable. It is palpable the way that this city has changed. Everyone is safe. And by the way, to date, they haven't actually had to draw a weapon. Because you know what happens when criminals know that there are consequences for their actions? They don't commit crimes. When you have a half dozen National Guard soldiers walking around making sure that nothing bad is going to happen to the residents of the District of Columbia and ensuring the peace and safety, crime has gone down 78%. So we're going to continue to do the job that the city of D.C. should be doing, and we're going to get this city back in shape because there is a new day in the world, there's new leadership in the world, Not only is the capital of our nation going to be safe and prosperous, but the world will benefit from the new leadership in the White House.
Man, I bet Timmons has even worse horror stories, and he's just giving the really watered-down versions of them. Because the reality is, D.C. is a mess. And no, I'm not just talking about Congress. This bill that Timmons is talking about here simply seeks to do one main thing, and one main thing only. Get people off the streets. Okay? It is better for them to be at a lower level security prison where you put the people that might have robbed a store. That's where you put people like that who continue to have theft like that over and over again. I'm not talking about maximum security. I'm talking about a place where people who probably need a different set of helping hands, that's better than them living on the streets. If you're 64 years or older, you probably want to listen to this one. The Department of Justice just went after 3 of the biggest Medicare providers, all for claiming that they were unbiased, while allegedly steering seniors into plans that provided them the best kickbacks. This just goes to show you can't trust any old Medicare provider to have your back. But navigating Medicare alone, that can be a total nightmare. That's why I want you to know about Chapter. They flip the script on the system by comparing every Medicare plan, not just the ones that give them the highest kickbacks. That's how they help people save, on average, $1,100 per year. If your plan's already the right fit, they'll tell you. And if there's a better plan out there, they'll help you switch. So if you're ready to fight against a rigged system, call Chapter today and get advice from people in your corner. Ladies and gentlemen, and even people like Representative Garcia are smart enough to understand that, yeah, that's a better idea. So why fight this bill in the way that it is being fought? Well, imagine that you're a Democrat mayor, and you have had no real political willpower behind your movement because you essentially have 2 kinds of people in your city. You have poor people that are completely reliant on wealthy people's taxes, and then you have wealthy people who want to make sure that the poor people are as far away from them as possible. So what do? Do you fix the crime problem? Well, that means that the people in the wealthy neighborhoods are going to have to pay a little bit more. They don't want to do that. And that means the people in the poor neighborhoods, that means friends and family members are likely going to go to jail. So the Democrat is kind of forced between a rock and a hard place. Do you do anything and risk breaking your political coalition? Or do you do something and help out the city as a whole? Democrats have optioned for the better part of the past 20 years. They have optioned continually for, let's not ruffle any feathers and let's not send anyone to prison. And then they scream about, well, it's all about mental health. It's all about humanity. We have got to rehabilitate these people. I agree. And it's better to rehabilitate someone behind a set of metal bars than it is under a bridge. You can reason with a person who is sobered up, isn't getting an injection by a passed around needle, and isn't going crazy tweaking out on the sidewalks. Folks, we're talking about Washington, D.C. here. We're talking about a city that did make a big mistake, the same mistake that Philadelphia made. It's the mistake of not allowing any high-rise buildings because they didn't want anything to outshine the Washington Monument. Just like in Philadelphia, they didn't want anything getting taller than the William Penn statue over City Hall. And that stunted their growth quite a lot, and it made D.C. residents essentially into that 2-tier system that I've been talking about before. But to make matters worse, the way the government has expanded, it has not expanded further into the city, it has expanded further across the river. I mean, that's where the Pentagon is, that's where a whole bunch of the FBI offices are, that's definitely where all the defense contractors hang out. They're all over the place in Nova. But you'd think that in the capital of the United States, you would care a little bit more about crime. That way you could at least have the look of, oh, hey, we take care of our crime problem, wink. Even though, the smoke-filled backroom deals still exist. Never ask how sausage gets made, people. 2 things you don't want to see ever get made. Sausage and legislation. But I think the biggest takeaway here is not the fact that Representative Timmons has a good bill. It's Representative Garcia. This dude has been slowly angling himself throughout his political career. He wants more power inside the Democratic Party. He's probably going to leverage that as a presidential run and then use that presidential run as leverage back to go back into the Congress. And what I mean by that is occasionally you'll do something that you don't want to do. You'll run for an office you don't want in order to get leverage to get something that you actually do want. Garcia is not, he's no fool. This dude is going to be difficult to deal with. And if he makes a full run at president, he's number 2 on my list. Which, by the way, Gavin Newsom isn't even number 1 on my list of Democrats that worry me. Garcia's at 2, okay? At number 1 is Andy Beshear. Okay? That dude terrifies me. But that's a long way off. But we're not even past the midterms yet. We need to be focusing on good policy now. And guess what? Timmons has a common sense piece of policy that says, hey, let's get people off the streets, make it safer for everyone, make sure that people aren't doing crazy things, making sure that if you do crazy things, you're in your own home away from everyone else. Or if you go overboard, spending a few nights in a jail cell might not be a bad idea. And it worked for Otis Campbell on Andy Griffith. It might work out in this case because a whole bunch of people out there need to be off the streets. Granted, there need to be better ways to minister to these people. For instance, just down the road on Cobb Parkway, there's a place called Must Ministries. They help out the homeless all the time. It should not be the job of the taxpayer to deal with this. But I want to end with this. Where religion and culture fails, the government will always step in. And when the government steps in, it's never a good thing. Unfortunately, bills like this are necessary, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.